Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. She started taking her phone into the bathroom. Not just once. Every night. Steam on the mirror, water running, and the phone face down on the bath mat like a guest with special privileges. I was at the stove browning chicken, and she called out from the hallway without looking at me, scrolling while she walked. Turn the heat down. It smells. She tossed over her shoulder. Dinner's almost ready. I answered. You getting in the shower or marrying that screen? She didn't bite. I'm exhausted, Mark. Don't start. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have skipped the chicken and started packing. We weren't a dramatic couple. Sarah and I used to be the pair people invited to everything because we were easy. Hikes on Saturdays, a movie and a burger after, weekend trips when fares were cheap. We used to talk about nothing for hours and feel like it mattered. Lately, she treated our conversations like a queue she had to clear. The phone absorbed the rest. That night, she ate 3 bites, said, "Work emergency," and wandered to the bedroom with her plate. I took her dish to the sink after it got cold. Her phone pinged on the dresser. She snatched it up before the second ping. You all good? I asked, leaning on the doorway. New client. He's intense, she muttered. Please don't take it personally. I'm trying not to. Try harder, she whispered, eyes still on the screen. The next morning, I brewed her favorite coffee and tucked a note in her lunch like some sitcom husband. Your guy, she said without looking, grabbing the cup in her bag. Thanks. Dinner out tomorrow? I tried. Your choice. Maybe. I'll see. See you when? Late, she said, already halfway down the hall. I wasn't suspicious then. I was patient. That was my first mistake. 2 weeks of late stacked up. She sat on the couch with her laptop open and her phone alive beside it, fingers tapping both like a drummer checking tempo. I tried to step into her orbit with small things. Flowers on a Tuesday, a goofy movie on a Thursday, a day trip planned for Sunday. Each time she found a thread to pull at work, and the day unraveled in her hands. One night, I tried the soft approach. Hey, we good? She didn't look up. Of course. It doesn't feel like of course. I'm tired, she said, a little edged now. Don't make this about you. Just asking. Then stop asking, she replied, and the laptop screen swallowed her face. I shut up. I cooked more. I cleaned up after both of us. I told myself I was being supportive, like an adult. When you care, you carry extra. That's what I believed. 3 days later, I decided to swing by her office over my lunch break. No reason. Just lunch and the coffee I know she likes when she's in a decent mood. I checked in with the receptionist, a young woman with a sharp bob and a sharper smile. She had the bag. She's in a meeting, the receptionist said, too loudly, like she wanted someone on the other side of a glass wall to hear. I turned. Sarah's office had those transparent panels companies pretend make them open. Through the glass, she stood close to a guy in a slim navy jacket. Their heads leaned toward each other more than they needed to. He said something. She laughed. It wasn't the laugh she gave at home. It was the one I remembered from our first summer. I walked to the door. The receptionist drummed her nails on the counter. Sarah looked over, stiffened for a half second, then pasted on her work smile and opened the door. Oh, hey babe, she chirped. What are you doing here? I brought lunch, I said, lifting the bag. And coffee. Her eyes flicked to the man and back. We were just finishing up. This is a new client. He's demanding. The man stuck out a hand with practiced confidence. Evan. Mark, I said, keeping the bag in my grip. His handshake was dry and deliberate. Sarah fussed with papers that didn't need fussing. Thanks for coming, she added. We should eat before my next call. We ate in her office. Well, I ate. She pushed food around and answered 2 messages every minute. Evan left with a nod, and I watched the door shut behind him. I didn't say what I'd seen. I didn't ask anything else. I left when she decided she was slammed. On the drive back to my shop, I replayed the laugh against the glass, the lean, the receptionist's volume. My phone buzzed at red lights. Crazy afternoon. Thanks for lunch, you're sweet, she wrote. Tonight might run long. Do what you need to, I replied. I'm in it differently now. 2 nights later, she slid in at 1:35 a.m. I heard a car door click at the curb and looked out. Evan rounded the hood of a dark sedan, opened her door, and she leaned in with an easy, practiced peck on his cheek. She didn't scan the windows. She didn't hesitate. She walked up our path like she lived here. She stepped inside and dropped her bag by the shoe rack. I was already in the hallway. Long night. She blinked. Ugh, don't start. We had to stay late. We, team, she said, flipping off her heels. I thought it was just you, I replied. Why are you being like this? She stretched the word this like taffy. Ashley drove me home. I'm dead. I'm taking a shower. Right? I said softly. Ashley. She paused in the doorway, then shrugged and disappeared into the steam with her phone. I slept 2 hours and dreamed of glass walls. In the morning, I kissed her cheek like always and watched her drive away. Then I didn't go to work. I stopped by a small office on a side street, where a guy named Collins hung his jacket on a chair and listened without giving me sympathy faces. You want clarity, not drama, he summed up. That's the whole ask. He nodded and slid a form across the desk. 2 days. Maybe less. I wasn't thinking payback. I was thinking closure. And rules. If she was out of the deal, she should stop pretending she was in it. That's what bothered me most, the pretending. By the second afternoon, Collins handed me a plain folder. Inside, timestamps, places, doorways, smiles that weren't for me. Nothing explicit. No need. Patterns are louder than any single frame. He also included a name and a number. Emily. I looked up at him. Who's Emily? Evan's wife, he said, like he was telling me a weather report. I took a walk around the block with the folder under my arm. I called the number. She answered on the second ring with a professional hello that suggested she spent her day answering to people. Emily? My name's Mark, I said. I think you're married to a man named Evan. Silence. Then, wary, yes. I'm married to a woman named Sarah. I think we should talk. We met at a coffee place with too many light bulbs hanging from strings. Emily was put together in a way that said she had stopped sleeping first, not last. She sat, folded her hands, and looked me in the eye. What is this? She asked. I slid the folder across. It explains itself. She opened it and read too fast. Her mouth tightened a few times. When she was half through, she closed it, opened it again, and stared at one photo like if she blinked, it would be different. He said he was mentoring her, she murmured. She told me he was a client, I said. Emily pressed her fingers to the bridge of her nose and took a breath through her teeth. I feel stupid. You're not, I answered. We're in the same club. We drank in silence for a minute. She put the folder back together with slow movements like it would shatter if she didn't. Then she looked at me again. What do you want to do? 2 things, I said. 1, stop playing a game I didn't join. 2, do it like adults. I'll talk to an attorney. We both file, no scenes. Clean. Fair. And them? She asked. They can have each other without lying to anyone. She exhaled, long and steady. Okay. I called an attorney that afternoon. He was tidy and direct. He gathered details, asked for copies, and spoke like a carpenter measuring twice. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. While this is in motion, he advised, do not confront anyone. Don't tip them off. It can turn messy. Understood, I said. I went home and acted normal. If she had a late night, I didn't ask. If she scrolled through dinner, I stacked plates and gave the dishwasher a workout. The difference now, I changed my side of the deal. On Wednesday, I moved my personal finances to a separate account and set automatic preferences so the house bills were covered and the rest wasn't a community puddle anymore. I subscribed to a co-working spot near my shop and started spending my mornings there before opening the bay. I put a passcode on the safe in the garage and kept my important documents in a locked file in my truck. Not hiding, just tidying the perimeter. Thursday night. She came home before 10 for the first time in weeks and surprised me with takeout from the place she knows I like. I figured you'd be hungry, she said, setting the bag down. I've been distracted. I know. You have? I agreed, unrolling the utensils. I'm sorry, she added quieter. Work swallowed me. I miss us. That's fixable, I said, watching her, but not with promises. What does that mean? It means I'm not begging for your time. If you want in, you know the way. She reached for my hand across the table. I do want in. Then show me across weeks, I replied. Not tonight. She sat back, a small frown tightening her eyes. So you're punishing me? No, I'm not feeding a fire that burns me. She looked down at her food, regrouped. Okay, one step at a time. We ate. For the rest of the night, she was warmer. It was the first soften, and I logged it as such. I slept with both eyes open anyway. Friday, she was sweet by text. Saturday morning, she made pancakes and announced she'd cleared her afternoon. Let's drive down to the lake, just us. Can't, I told her, rinsing the plate. I've got a backlog at the shop. Derek's out with the flu. Her mouth twisted. You always can when I want to do something. That line won't work today, I said mildly. If you want me, book me in advance. I run on a calendar now. Her jaw tightened. Wow. Grown-up scheduling. Wild concept. She grabbed her keys hard enough to jingle. Whatever. I'll go see Kira. Enjoy, I answered. I didn't ask when she'd be back. That afternoon, I drove to the co-working space and met Emily there, in a small glass cube meant for collaboration. She slid me signed documents. I slid her mine. Clean. Fair. No fireworks. When do we tell them? Emily asked. Soon, I said, but not with speeches. We planned something else. Something simple. We picked a restaurant where Sarah and I used to sit side by side and share fries. We made a reservation for early evening. Emily would arrive first and take a table. I would sit with her like two people having coffee. At 5 sharp, I'd text Sarah, dinner at 5. That place you like. She would leave wherever she was, certain she was about to drag me by the ear. And I would introduce my guests. Sunday morning, Sarah was softer again. She came up behind me while I folded laundry and rested her chin between my shoulder blades. I missed this, she said into my shirt. Folding. I deadpanned. You know what I mean. Do you? I asked without turning. Or do you miss me available when you're bored? She moved away. You're being cruel. No, I said, setting a stack of shirts on the chair. I'm being specific. She took a breath. Let's reset. Dinner tonight? Just us. No phones. We can talk. I'll make it right. I looked at her. 7. 7, she agreed. I'll be here at 6:30. At 4:45, she texted, running behind. Big issue. Might be closer to 8. I smiled and wrote, dinner at 5. Our place downtown. What? She sent back. Already here. I dropped my phone into my pocket and walked into the restaurant. Emily sat in a corner booth where the lighting is gentle and the tables are close enough for the next one to become an audience. She looked composed but pale. You okay? I asked as I slid in across from her. I will be, she said. You? Same. We ordered coffees and didn't touch them. At 4:59, I sent the same text again. 5. Now. 5:06, the door banged. Sarah blew in with a storm face, scanned the room, found me, and saw Emily. Her posture stiffened into something brittle. What is this? She snapped, marching over. Who is she? I stood, calm as a judge. Sarah, this is Emily. I asked who. Meet your lover's wife, I said, letting each word land. We're finalizing our divorces. Her mouth opened and closed like she'd swallowed the wrong way. What are you talking about? I set a folder on the table and opened it. Photos. Dates. The door at her office. The doorway of a hotel 3 exits up the interstate. 2 people too close by any measure for colleagues. Not obscene. Just obvious. Stop, she said, reaching for the folder. I kept my hand on it. No more stories about Ashley. You're out of your mind. Emily looked up at her with a politeness that cut more than shouting. Your friend Evan told me you're a star. He forgot to mention the part where he brought his work home. Sarah glared at Emily. You don't get to be here. And yet here I am, Emily answered softly. Sit, I told Sarah. Or don't. We're not doing a scene. She didn't sit. She stayed standing, jaw trembling with rage she couldn't place anywhere useful. You ambushed me. No, I said, sliding a single sheet across the table. I invited you to dinner. She glanced down. The top of the paper read like the start of a clean exit. She skimmed, flipped the page, and her hands wavered. This is insane, she whispered. It's simple, I replied. You want him? Clear the board and go to him. You want dignity? Sign, and we part like adults. Either way, I'm done being the extra in your story. A couple at the next table went very quiet. The server hovered, then floated away. Sarah realized people were watching and tried to mold her face back into something controlled. You can't just, she started. I can't, I cut in. And I am. She put a hand on her hip. You didn't even ask me. I did, I said. Many times. You were too busy. Emily stood then, smooth and steady. Mark, do you want to get dinner? She asked like she'd rehearsed. I looked at Sarah once more. We're done here, I told her. You'll hear from the attorney tomorrow. Sarah's voice dropped low. Please don't do this to me. You did it to us, I replied. I'm just stopping the bleeding. We left the folder on the table. I held the door for Emily, and we stepped into the early evening like two people who had decided not to carry someone else's mess anymore. We didn't run anywhere dramatic. We walked 3 blocks and ducked into a place with clean tables and a quiet corner. We ordered simple food and ate like people who hadn't eaten with appetite in weeks. You okay? I asked her again. Getting there, she said. You? I'm surprised how light my shoulders feel, I admitted. She smiled. That's because you carried this alone too long. We talked. Not about them. About work, her love of old houses, my shop, her sister's kids, my buddy Derek's habit of naming his wrenches. We laughed at small things. It felt normal. It felt earned. I got home at 9. Sarah sat on the couch with swollen eyes and the folder open beside her. She looked up and went straight to bargaining. I made a mistake, she said. You made a choice, I corrected. It's not what you think. Every frame in there shows exactly what I think. She stood and moved toward me, hands out. I can fix this. You can fix your life, I answered. Ours is closed. She followed me down the hall while I pulled a suitcase from the closet. You're not serious. Dead serious. I packed with the efficiency you get from road trips and broken plans. Shirts, boots, the essentials from the bathroom. She hovered like a kid trying to stop a door with her foot. Please, she said. I'll cut contact. I'll prove it. You already proved plenty, I replied. Don't throw us away. You did that. I'm putting the lid on the can. I zipped the suitcase. She grabbed my wrist. I looked at her hand until she let go. Where will you go? She asked, voice smaller now. Not your concern, I answered. For what it's worth, the bills are handled for the next month. After that, we'll do the math and be done. I'm not leaving you stranded. I'm leaving you responsible. Is there someone else? She demanded suddenly, anger flaring as contrition crumbled. I laughed once. I just left dinner with his wife. That's the someone else. You're cruel, she shot back. No, I said, rolling the suitcase to the door. I'm done. Her last play was sweetness. She stepped close, touched my cheek, and tried the voice she used the first year we were married. I know you. You're good. You'll give me one more chance. I was good, I said. Now I'm finished. I left her in the frame of the doorway, holding promises she should have said 12 weeks ago. I moved into a short-term rental above my shop the next day, an ugly little space with a clean floor, good light, and peace. I bought a second-hand couch and a decent bed. I hung a hook by the door for my keys and put my name on the mailbox. My life fit in 2 rooms, and that was fine. At work, I ran my schedule like a gate. No walk-ins. No, can you just? Derek came back from the flu and stared at me. You look different, he said, wiping his hands on a rag. Lighter, I agreed. You finally cut that rope, he asked. With a sharp knife, I said. He nodded once. About time. Emily texted me later that week. Paperwork filed, she wrote. How are you sleeping? Like a teenager. I sent back. How are you? Like someone who has nothing to hide, she replied. We grabbed coffee on Friday and skipped the parts about them. She had a dry sense of humor that matched mine. She teased me about labeling bins in my shop. I teased her about her habit of folding napkins into crisp squares before she ate. We walked 2 blocks and didn't hold hands. It wasn't romance. It was 2 people with clean air around them. Sarah tried one last tactic, grand kindness. She appeared at my shop on a Wednesday with a casserole dish and a smile she thought would rewind months. I made your favorite, she said, stepping into the bay. Can't take food in the shop, I told her, nodding to the posted sign. Safety. She laughed like it was cute. Come on. I'm not joking, I said. Can we talk? She asked, eyes darting to Derek, who was pretending to inventory bolts a little too noisily. We said everything, I replied. I miss you, she said. I miss who you were, I answered. But she's gone. She blinked fast, then got mad. You're being dramatic. I'm being done. I said, my voice calm enough to make Derek stop clinking bolts. She looked at Derek and at the open bay where the world could see us. She hadn't expected me to set a boundary on neutral ground. She put the dish down on a stool like she was planting a flag. You'll be back, she announced. No, I said, glancing at the stool. You can pick that up on your way out. Derek cleared his throat. Ma'am, we can't have food near the lifts, he added, not looking up. Sarah stared at both of us, grabbed the dish, and left. That door closed with a tone I'd learned to enjoy. That was the second soften, the over-the-top sweetness after she realized she couldn't pull me into a hallway or a bedroom. It failed. It had to. If you buy fake twice, that's on you. In the weeks that followed, we moved through logistics. She signed what she needed to sign. I transferred what I needed to transfer. We sold the house and split the equity clean. I took a small workshop with an apartment in back. She moved to a condo on the other side of town near her office. The night before the movers came, I stood in the empty living room and looked at the rectangle in the carpet where our couch used to sit. I felt nothing except the ordinary relief of finishing a job. We never yelled. We never threw anything. We never gave neighbors a show. Some people think that means there wasn't pain. There was plenty. We just didn't make it anyone else's hobby. The last time I saw Sarah, we met at the title office to sign the final set of papers. She wore a blazer that could have cut glass. I wore a clean shirt and the same boots I always wear. She tried one more version of a plea on the way out. Maybe in a year, she said, touching my arm. We can talk. No, I replied. You can remember me as a man who didn't chase. Her mouth tightened. She nodded, and that was that. Emily and I started getting dinner on Fridays, then Sundays. She came to my shop one afternoon and sat on a rolling stool while I tore down a carb. You look good when you work, she said, not in a way that required an answer. She brought coffee sometimes and asked about the small things that make a day better. I did the same for her. We didn't combine anything. We didn't promise anything big. We just showed up consistently. One Saturday, she and I took a drive out of the city in my old truck to look at a farmhouse she'd been eyeing. It needed work. She smiled at the peeling paint and said, "This is exactly my kind of trouble." "My kind is a stubborn engine," I replied. "But this is charm." "Don't say charm," she warned with a grin. "You'll scare it away." We laughed. Then we walked the property in easy silence. No glass walls. No phones buzzing like insects. No pretending. Word drifted back in the way word always does. Sarah and Evan didn't last. He didn't leave his habits at the office. She moved again, closer to her sister. She took more overtime than her body needed. That's not karma. That's just the bill that shows up when you take what isn't yours and try to keep it. 6 months later, I stood on the porch of the small craftsman I'd closed on with money. I'll say I earned the hard way. My shop had a wait list. Derek had a raise and a reason to stay. My truck ran like a loyal dog. A new motorcycle sat in the garage because I could. I put in a fire pit out back where friends came on Saturdays, and we told the kind of stories men tell when they've put childish things away. People ask if I hate Sarah. I don't. I don't have space for hate. I keep room for respect. And when respect leaves, I make room by taking my shoes and my keys and my calm, and I go. If there's a trick, it's not yelling. It's not begging. It's changing the terms quietly and walking over your own 2 feet. The night she burst into that restaurant and tried to make a scene, I didn't lift my voice. I lifted the truth, set it on the table, and invited her to see it. Then I left. Sometimes the coldest line is also the warmest exit. This is where I stop. Emily came by last week with her niece and a box of old records she found. We played one on the porch and let the afternoon wind do its job. She leaned in and asked, "Do you ever miss the old life?" "I missed the part where I thought love meant never drawing lines," I said. "Turns out it means drawing them early." She nodded. "Then holding them." "And holding them," I agreed. That's the whole story. No flames, no speeches. Just a man who finally acted like the man he thought he was. The line I drew didn't cut her. It cut me loose. And I don't look back. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.